This is 5 Minute Feng Shui podcast episode 89, When the Money Goes Too Quickly. Welcome to the 5 Minute Feng Shui podcast, where each week I talk about how to move energy and make money. You'll learn how to create a prosperous home and an abundant life using classical Chinese Feng Shui. I'm your host, Katie Weber, publisher of the Red Lotus Letter, Feng Shui Easing for Wealth. Each week, I'll cover Feng Shui topics that can help you improve your life, share inspiring stories, and always end with 3 easy-to-implement Feng Shui tips that you can put to work right away, and usually in about 5 minutes. Now let's get started on the 5 minutes that could change your life. Hey, thanks for joining me today on this episode of 5 Minute Feng Shui. Today we're talking about when your money goes too quickly. Now, for some folks, they may have experienced COVID-related layoffs. Maybe you've had more expenses that have come up, or a family member has lost his or her job, and that means that there's less money coming in the door, and maybe more bills start to mount up. It could also be a chronic problem, that it's always too much money or too much month at the end of the money. And that's something that happens a lot too. Today we're going to be talking about some of the ways that money goes quickly and how it can show up in your home, because it certainly can. I just put out my weekly newsletter, and one of the things I talked about in that in my personal note, always in my newsletter, I don't know if you're signed up for it, Red Lotus Letter, but if you are, then you may have read that my husband and I, Tim, were having all these bills every time we turned around. The dog had to go to the vet. The brakes went out on the car. Something or another was constantly happening. And I just was beside myself we couldn't stem the flow of this never-ending bill. So one day it was cleaning up after dinner, and I reached in underneath the sink to get out some countertop cleaner. And when I did, I was just blindly reaching in. I put my hand in a puddle of the water that drains out of the sink. And we had a problem once before, where our house actually was new when we purchased it. And so what we found is there were a lot of fittings and things that weren't really tightened. And we had a leak on the sink once before, but the plumber came, caulked it all up, tightened it up. And it had a lot of caulk on it. And we didn't think anything more of it. Well, evidently, that caulking job that he did and the tightening that he did on the sink to the drain wasn't seated properly. It didn't actually make a watertight seal. So over time, it just dripped and dripped and dripped. And I didn't really notice it. And then I think the drip got larger. And then I had a giant mess underneath the sink of, icky sink water, like you know what goes down the drain. And I fortunately had lined the cabinet underneath the sink with a rubber mat. So thankfully, we didn't ruin the whole interior of the sink cabinet, but it showed us that there was a constant drip, a constant leak. So as it turned out, we called a different plumber this time, who told us that not only do we have this leak, but the sink doesn't fit properly. The threading on the hole, and where the pipe connects to it that carries away the wastewater, can't get a proper seal on the sink. So that meant that we had to hire granite people and have them come in and bring up all the granite countertops. I had to go buy a brand new sink, and then I had to hire the granite people and the plumber to come back out. The plumber put the whole new sink in, and the granite people came back and put the granite countertops back on. But it stopped. All the bills just stopped. And it showed me the importance of really looking around the house, paying close attention, especially under the sinks where we don't look very often. We don't actually look down there. So you might have an unpleasant surprise. And if you do, it's very possible that you have a leak. And that can cause financial leaks and those never-ending bills that we have to deal with. But before I get started talking about all the ways that your house could be a drain on your finances, I want to give a big thank you and a shout out to Rihanna in Western Australia, who is a podcast listener and who is a devoted 5-minute feng shui listener. And I want to say how much I appreciate you and the beautiful email that you sent to me, and I want to share it with you because I think it's pertinent to this topic today. But I want to read it to you. It was a little bit longer. I had put her note, I had summarized it and put it in my newsletter, but I want to read you the entire email because I thought it was a really nice email, and it had some interesting insights in it too that you could use. All right, so here, dear Katie, my name is Rihanna. I'm 26 and from a small town in Western Australia. Something I've always been greatly passionate about ever since I was a little girl is feng shui. But being from a small Australian town, feng shui wasn't and still isn't common here. So I never found like-minded people or many helpful resources to understand it and add to my passion. All I had was one book that my mom gave me, and I would make my own arrangements in my room to feed my passion. Now, as an adult, my love of feng shui is stronger than ever as I have a family of my own who I want to support and grow wealth with so we can live our most happy, peaceful, and abundant life. Finding your podcast was like finding gold. I look so forward to your episodes every week and listen to them all the time when my toddler is napping or whilst I'm cleaning. Thanks to your amazing tips, I now understand my birth element, which is water, and I'm adding its beautiful benefits into my life through symbols and colors. Also, since listening to your podcast, I have won prize after prize after prize, including $1,000, which helped me purchase a beautiful water fountain for our front porch that I have wanted for so long. Thank you for helping me to continue to grow our wealth and our abundance. You've brought so much to our life and continue to do so with every episode. Best wishes, Rihanna. Now, isn't that the most fabulous email? I love getting emails from listeners and from readers who tell me how they implement those tips and how they've helped them. Now, if you're interested in understanding your birth element and putting it to work, listen to podcast episode 82, and it will help you to understand your birth element so that you can put it into effect. Now, let's talk about our subject of today, which is what do you do when you have too much month at the end of the money? And, everyone has experienced that dilemma from time to time. Like I was saying earlier, for me and my husband, those expenses were the dog had to go to the vet, the car had an expensive repair. It was just one thing after another that just kept coming up. And these unexpected trips to the emergency room or that expensive house repair, they happen. It can happen to anyone. Then there's a case when you have money it just always goes. It simply goes too quickly despite your best efforts. You may refinance, you may try to work on your budget, and you may wonder how to attract money with feng shui. But here's what I want to say. It's so important to stop those leaks and drains of wealth energy around your house first. Now, I was activating for wealth when we had the whole sink problem. But as long as you have a drain, it's sort of like rowing a boat across the lake. And you're rowing and you're moving along, but if you have a hole in that boat, it doesn't matter if you put a sail on the boat, it doesn't matter if you put a motor on the boat, you're still going to sink. It's still going to be losing energy. It's going to be taking on water, and that can cause you to sink. So it doesn't matter if you are applying feng shui to help your finances if you have a leak or a drain somewhere. And that's what we want to talk about today, is how to manage that. And by looking at these leaks or losses that you might have right from the outset, you can stop the drain on your money. Then you can confidently apply feng shui to attract prosperity to your life. So let's talk about some of the common ways where your house could be creating more bills than you want to have, or creating that situation where you're always behind. So let's talk about that. The first and most common source of money loss is a poison arrow. This is when the front door to your home lines up with a back door. It's like opposite the back. So you can open the front door and see to the back door. Or there's a window. When you have a straight arrow shot, that's called a poison arrow, whether that's to a door or a window. It's especially problematic if it's a door, but it can go out the same way, whether it's a door or a window. It causes the money to be drained too quickly from your income. Living expenses and surprise bills can show up and be draining. It can also happen if you can just see out the rear of your house if you stand at the front door. Now, this is a very common problem. A lot of people have houses that are very open concept now. The problem is if you stand at your front door and you can see all the way out through your house, money flows where the eye goes. And if money in your eye goes out that back door, or goes out the view, out those beautiful open windows at the back, your money's going with it. Just a constant drip, drip, drip on your bank account. But one way to stop that outward flow is to block the view from the back door or the window with a screen, a curtain, or a plant. You can also slow it down by hanging 5 faceted crystal balls in a row from the ceiling between the door and window. But I will tell you, a visual block is always the most effective. Now, in my house, my husband and I lived in the same house that I was just talking about with the sink. It was a money-losing house. It was for the builder. It was for us when we moved into it, but then we stopped it. And that's because I'm a feng shui professional, and I looked at it from that perspective and knew we'd have some issues around it. But I could also fix them. One of the things that we had was this beautiful iron doors, custom iron doors, and you walked in and you could see all across the back of the house with these magnificent windows with the trees in the back, and it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. But all of our money just flew right out the window, and bills. I mean, sure, we made great money. Good money was coming in, but it was also going out. You need to accumulate money. You don't want to just be paying bills, right? Nobody does. So what we did was there was actually an arch in our foyer. When you walked in, there was a little bit of a foyer, but it opened up. And because there was an arch there, we put in 2 paneled doors. That way, we could keep those doors closed, and it created a little enclosed foyer. So then when the FedEx man came or the UPS delivery dropped something off and I opened the door, they weren't seeing all the way through our house, and our money wasn't flying out the window either. Once those doors went up, huge difference in terms of our finances. We started accumulating more money. The bills slowed down. It was so much better. Now, let's talk about another way that sometimes can happen when you are losing money, and that is you see the toilet from the front door. I had a house in North Carolina where I lived, beautiful home, absolutely beautiful, and it had a toilet that was just off the foyer. And the way that it was arranged was it was a powder room, and when the door to the powder room was open, you saw straight into it from the front door. You could see the toilet. It's not so bad seeing into the powder room if it's just you can see into a space, but you saw the toilet. So a lot of these are some things that I've had to deal with. So as you can imagine, one of the things that we did was to make sure that door was always closed, and I created a curtain right by that. There was a column there, and I put a curtain behind that column, and it looked very pretty, elegant, all drawn back and so on. But when the door was open from the front door, you couldn't see the toilet. So it's really important that you don't see it. Otherwise, you have money that fails to accrue. So make sure that you block the view of the toilet. Maybe you can change the door opening, make the door open another way if that's a possibility. This can also happen if you have a toilet over your front door on the second floor. This is another thing that sometimes happens on 2-story houses, and it's very inauspicious, and it can cause a lot of money loss, not to mention job loss and potential health problems. If your home is arranged this way, keep the light on in your foyer all the time to help lift that inner income and wealth chi at your front door, because this is the point at which money and opportunity energy into your home is that front door. So important that you are really observant when you come in or when you stand in your front door and you look around and you see, can I see to the kitchen? Can I see the sink? Can I see a toilet in the powder bathroom? Can I see out the back of the house? If you are, there go that giant flushing sound is the is the money in your bank account. And so you've got to find a way to block that. Let's talk about another common way that you can burn through money. Now, it's interesting. I've lived in a lot of houses. Tim and I move and we upgrade houses and move for jobs, his job, and he's had jobs at different parts of the country, and so we've moved. So I've lived in just about every house. Seems like, anyway. But this is a common way that you can see a never-ending stream of bills and you burn through money. And that is if you open the front door and there's a fireplace opposite. If you can stand at your front door and see a fireplace, you will burn through the money. It will just one thing after another, you'll just spend. And this is why you want to, again, try to find some kind of block or screen or a curtain that you will literally block that view so you don't symbolically burn through money too fast. Now, I happen to live in that kind of house right now. We have this 2-story living room. It's really grand. It's huge. You could play basketball in it. But at the front door, it's beautiful. You see the big, magnificent fireplace opposite the front door, and darn if we didn't go burning through money. And we had a lot of renovations when we bought this house, so we were doing a lot of renovations and spending a lot of money, as you might expect, but that's okay. I mean, we anticipated those expenses and knew that those were coming. But once they were all done, then bills kept going, and I knew that we needed to block that view. So what I did was I created a little view up and created a small foyer, and I put in a large console table with some decorations on it, and then I hung a curtain behind that. Now, the curtain is an actual physical and visual block from the front door. So when you see, and you can come in, and it's a nice entryway, and you don't feel like that curtain is too close or that it's blocking off the view, because the living room is nice and open. But that's how I did it. Let me tell you, I walk my talk. I do the things that I don't just tell people, do this. I actually do what I'm talking about. So that's how we fixed it. The bills stopped. The money's accruing. Everything's fine again. So this is a common way that you can lose money. Let's also talk about mirrors. Now, a lot of people love to have a mirror by the front door, and that's fine, but you never want to have a mirror that's opposite the front door. I used to love the show Bernie Mac. I loved Bernie Mac, and I loved him. Loved the show, and but I cringe every time I'd see him, in the series go and answer his front door, because when you'd open the front door, they had a mirror, a pretty console table, and then a mirror opposite it. And my concern was, I looked at it and was like, oh no, Bernie, don't do that. Change your change your feng shui. Well, as it turned out, sadly, he had he died. He passed away from a lung disorder. But this is something that can actually be harmful for you in your home, not only from a financial standpoint, but it can cause all kinds of loss, relationship. It can create a loss of money, position, job, so on. So it's so important. Now, if you want to have a mirror that's perpendicular to the door, that's fine. But directly opposite, very important that you don't have that. Now, let me tell you about this one client of mine. So she had a situation where she had you couldn't see the front door. She had a fireplace, and there was a big mirror over it, but the fireplace was really tall, but you couldn't see the front door from the fireplace, and you couldn't see the mirror, but the fireplace was opposite the front door. But what was interesting was when you go upstairs and look, you could see the front door from the second floor. And once we fixed that, everything got better. Her husband found a new job. Lots of things improved. So really check around to make sure nothing is reflecting your door. If you have a 2-story home, look around there as well. So important that it doesn't reflect it, or especially where it's opposite. Now, this is not such a common thing, but there is a common decorative thing that's coming up. So let's talk about your path or walkway to your front door. This is a really important area, and we always want to have a really nice smooth walkway to your front door. There's some older houses, like historical homes, many times that never had any kind of a walkway poured or any cement or path that goes to the front door. And I had a client like that, had a very old historical, beautiful home in New Jersey, but it never had a front door walkway. And one of the things I had suggested to him was to put in a path and a walkway. If you don't have a path or a walkway, and I actually like a poured cement walkway, I think that's the best and most effective way of delivering chi and energy to your front door, and that means money. And once that was added, it made all the difference in the world. Now, there's a common decorative thing that's kind of newer, especially for like contemporary type homes, and that is having some kind of a slabs or steps, and they are broken up. Now, if you have the stones that are in between the slabs or the steps, that's okay, but it's really not terrific. The idea is that you never want to have a broken pathway to your front door, because if you have like grass, it's a step, or if you have any type of broken pathway from the street or your driveway to your front door, that means money can't get to you easily. And what do we want? We always want money to just come on in the front door, right? We want it to be nice and easy. So any break in that smooth flow of chi causes your financial flow to weaken. So make sure that you have a smooth, solid path to conduct chi and money energy to your home. All right. Now, this is kind of circling back to the beginning of this podcast, which I talked about the leak that I had in my sink once upon a time. And water leaks are such an important thing to check around your house, because water leaks are draining to finances, whether it's a faucet or a tap that just drips slowly, or maybe there's a leak that's undetected like I had. Water lost is wealth lost. Always check all your pipes and faucets for leaks and repair anything that isn't drip free. Be sure to check those exterior faucets in underneath sinks for leaks, like where you don't see them. A lot of times we don't notice them. You may even have a hose that's always connected to your faucet, and you may never know that you have a leak. So disconnect those hoses and just make sure. Check everywhere. If you're having a problem with money, this is one of the quickest, easiest ways to check for money loss is for water loss. This can also be if you ever have the toilet that starts running, it sounds like it's filling up again, the tank. That means the seal is broken on the tank, and it will constantly have to refill. Every time you hear that refilling, that means money is lost. Now, on my website, one of the things that I talked about, or I showed, is actually an image. It's a beautiful contemporary bedroom, but it has this sort of bed-bath combination thing, and that brings us to our next point. Seeing your toilet or bathroom sink or shower from your bed will cause you to lose money. You should never see or hear water while you're sleeping. If there's a sink or shower or toilet or tub that you can see as you're in bed, you may not just lose money, you could actually lose health. And I've seen that happen before. In fact, I've seen it at one house happen 2 times, where somebody died of cancer immediately. And they had one of those beautiful master bedrooms with the big double doors that you open it up and there's a giant bathtub. So their feet were literally pointing toward this giant bathtub when the doors were open. And even if the doors are closed, it's never a good idea to have your feet lined up with a bathroom, nor see a bathtub or a shower or any plumbing fixture for that matter while you're in bed. It's one of those things that it's more than just a door. You've got to kind of rearrange your bed so that you don't see any plumbing fixtures from while you're sleeping or while you're in bed, because this can create severe loss. Now let's talk about something environmentally, and that is if the rear slopes away from the back side of your house. When you have a lack of support from behind your house, that can pull your financial energy down with it. It just like runs away. A house really requires good support from behind. So if yours slopes away, you can add 5 trees, plant 5 trees along the back, or add a lamppost at the rear of your property to help lift that energy and give your home support and to stop that wealth chi from running away. Now, another thing that a lot of folks don't think about, and that is their bed position. Your bed position is really critical in feng shui. It's always important that you can see your door from the bed easily, and that the door is on an opposite wall, not opposite you, like where your feet are lined up with it, but on another wall across the room. It's so important that it's that you can do that, because it puts you in a command position. If you have a bed that's lined up and it's on the same wall as the door, that means a lot of unexpected and unpleasant surprises, like bills, can show up and create a lot of problems for you. It's also not good for your relationship. It can create some career instability, and we don't want that, right? We want our money to flow smoothly. We don't want those unpleasant surprises, and we also want to accumulate money. So here you go. We've got ways that money can be lost through your home, through an arrangement, through leaks, from position of your door, looking at poison arrows. We have a lot of ways that we can lose money, and hopefully you've got some ideas now of where to look if the bills have been mounting up. All right, well, I'm going to leave you with my last 3 tips of the day. Number 1 for when money goes too quickly is check for leaks. Look underneath those sink cabinets and test everything. Touch it and touch those pipes to see if you feel any moisture or wetness. If so, get your plumber, and don't just let them caulk it to a seal. Make sure it actually seals properly, that the seals are seated on there properly. Number 2, guard the front door. Really pay close attention to your front door, whether that is having a nice walkway up to the front door, if you've got a view of a kitchen sink or a toilet from the front door, we want to block those views. And if you have a poison arrow, so important that you try to block that view from the front of the house all the way out to the back of the house, because that can cause serious loss. So you're going to add a screen, or you can also add the 5 faceted crystal balls hung one by one, sort of in a row, in between the two doors. But I will tell you, I personally find that having an actual physical block, such as a screen or a plant or something like that, will make a bigger difference. Because if your eye can't see it, then your money can't go out there. Lastly, your bed. Pay close attention to what you see while you're in bed, and that's whether you can see a sink, you can see a tub. We want to make certain that you can't see even the kitchen sink. I had a bed one time that I could see to the kitchen sink, and it was a problem. And we just changed the position of the bed. It was a problem no more. So make sure that from your bed you can't see any kind of plumbing, and also make sure that your bed isn't lined up on the same wall as the door, because that can create a lot of unpleasant surprises. All right, well, I hope that you have enjoyed today's 5-minute feng shui, and join me on the next episode, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening to 5-Minute Feng Shui today. The year of the rat is coming, and I want to share with you where you can find money, love, and opportunity in 2020. And it's all in my annual Feng Shui Forecast, the Success Pack. You get a full year of in-depth Feng Shui details about how to use the energy of the year for success and prosperity. That's because every year we're showered with a Roman candle of opportunities for money, abundance, love, and opportunity. You just have to know where they are. And my Year of the Rat Feng Shui Success Pack includes all the details for every house and every zodiac sign. You also get this year's lucky clothing, handbag, and wallet colors. So be sure to go to redlotusletter.com/rat for all the details on the Year of the Rat and how to make this year the year of your dreams.